It has been a busy news cycle this week, as always here in Washington. But how did the mainstream media do with its coverage? Here to discuss the week's media highlights and lowlights, District Media Group President Beverly Hallberg and the managing editor of Media Research Center TV, Brittany Hughes. Great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the highs. So Beverly, I'll start with yours. Let's play this, and then you can explain for us. Bill Maher.
If this had been a liberal Supreme Court justice that someone came to kill, it would have been on the front page. And that's what's so disappointing about a paper like the New York Times, because they just wear their bias on their sleeves.
All right, so Beverly, explain your pick.
Well, Bill Maher, a self-described liberal, the reason I chose him as my media highs, he's willing to call out liberal bias, even if it goes against his own political ideology. It's not just in this specific instance. He's also been willing to call out cancel culture in reference to comedy. He's also talked about the importance of having discussion about COVID-19 and the vaccines. And so I give him a lot of credit for calling balls and strikes.
Yeah, I think he's that old-fashioned definition of liberal that we used to think of in the sense that he had a very open mind to discussion and free speech and that kind of thing. So he has been delivering on that quite a bit. Okay, so Brittany, let's go to your high. This has to do with some feelings about CNN. Here's a clip.
What makes you think it was this group, Jane's Revenge, that attacked your facility?
They left their signature calling card, number one, with their spray-painted message on the side of our building saying Jane was here.
Who exactly Jane's Revenge is still unclear. The group, if they're a group at all, remains anonymous.
So, Brittany, they covered some of the attacks on these pregnancy centers.
They did. Credit where credit is due. CNN at least pointed out the violence that's been perpetrated against dozens of pro-life pregnancy centers across the country, some of which have even been firebombed, others have been vandalized. This has been a rash of violence we've seen over the last several weeks by a group calling themselves allegedly Jane's Revenge, which is a militant pro-abortion group. Now, of course, we saw this after the networks largely ignored an assassination attempt on a sitting Supreme Court justice. And so it was interesting to see them finally covering the violence now that the FBI, of course, is investigating this as potential domestic terrorism.
Yeah, and we were happy to report that on the show tonight. A good announcement. Okay, so let's get to the White House briefings. Beverly, this gets to your low, a little bit of a rough patch for the press secretary.
Why is the president saying that inflation is worse everywhere but here?
If you look at globally, other countries, and if you look at where we are economically, when you think about the Group 7, the G7, we are in a much stronger place than we are economically than the rest. And also,
I did look globally, though. He says that inflation is worse everywhere but here. That's not true. U.S. has worse inflation than Germany, France, Japan, Canada, India, Italy, Saudi Arabia.
Well,
so why is he saying that?
I think what we are saying is that when you talk about inflation, it is a global thing.
Beverly, she had some tough time coming up with some answers for some of the questions this week.
Yes, and in this situation, giving an answer that was factually incorrect. Now, in her defense, her ultimate boss, Joe Biden, said the same thing. So she is parroting what he said. But it wasn't just this answer. She gave an answer earlier this week, or I should say a non-answer in reference to a very expected question about the baby formula shortage. She did her trademarks, flipping through her binder, trying to find the right talking point, awkward seconds going by, and then she said, no update. There's no status update. So I think while the American people realize this is a tough job, it is important to exude confidence, and so far she hasn't hit that.
Okay, Brittany, your low point. Let me play something from MSNBC.
Whether or not it be telling women that, you know what, women, you think you're losing your rights now? What do you think is going to happen if we don't have democracy? You know what, African Americans, particularly African American men who are showing the lowest motivation to turn out in this midterm, you think things are tough for you right now? Where do you think you're going to stand in a country in America where there's no democracy? We've got to let these people understand that they've got skin in this game, and we got to scare the hell out of them, because quite frankly, Nicole, they should be afraid that we're going to lose our democracy.
So, Brittany, is the criticism there that he's saying essentially if you vote Republican that the democracy in this country will go away? It's a republic, by the way.
Yeah, so first of all, we don't have a democracy. We do have a constitutional republic. There is a difference. And I think that this talking point heading into November, as the left gets more and more afraid looking at the midterms, we see this cropping up over and over again, that we're going to lose our democracy. Somehow, if the GOP wins in November, we're going to lose our democracy. Notice how they never actually clarify what that means. This is a fear-mongering tactic that they never actually get into the details about. But in speaking to people like Black Americans and saying that things are somehow going to get worse, under President Trump, until we got to the COVID pandemic, Black Americans were actually experiencing record low poverty and unemployment rates. Things were better for Americans pre-Joe Biden. So this idea that we're going to lose our democracy, whatever in the world that means, and things are going to become apocalyptic is absolutely absurd. And they only say this in the absence of an actual argument for why anybody should vote for these left-wing policies that have so far done nothing but wreck our economy.
Well, to his credit, he said out loud exactly what he thinks and what he wants to do, which is to motivate people with fear. Something politicians all across the spectrum are very good at, especially in an election year. Beverly and Brittany, thank you both very much. Come back soon.
Thank you.